Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Captain America Anniversary Tribute Issue 1. And this was a pretty interesting issue to do a tribute for, of course, Captain America's 80th anniversary this year. And it combines three different stories, pretty much the main kind of pivotal ones important to Captain America lore. Like, the first one is his introduction. Second one deals with like the riddle of the Red Skull, and the last one deals with Avengers issue 4, the introduction of Captain America. So we start up, and of course we see it in the different kind of time periods and everything. So we get interesting kind of stuff of like after Cap gets his super soldier serum and Bucky's kind of able to figure out who he is accidentally. He's like, I should tan your hide kind of thing. It's really kind of weird, but that's how he was introduced in the 1940s. But we just see all these different artists kind of like redoing the origin story, and of course it deals with, of course, World War II and all the different kinds of saboteurs, and evidently there was a plot within the government, and they're trying to kind of like root out and see kind of what's going on, and one of them kind of like gets into and sees what's going on with, of course, Project Rebirth, or them trying to do their super soldier thing, and of course a Nazi agent pops out and tries to like stop what's going on, seeing the success that happened with Steve Rogers, and then of course seeing it set off and having him deal with everything. But it's really interesting because in this we see that he led a kind of double life, like he was doing his stuff as Captain America, but was also Private Steve Rogers, and nobody kind of put those two together with this until it was Bucky that accidentally came into his tent as he was getting into his Captain America costume. And he then has him as pretty much his sidekick because originally, at least in the comic books, Bucky was a teen sidekick, not a same age kind of best friend that we've seen in the MCU. So if you're looking at this, you'd be like, this is kind of weird, and would really kind of mess with you if the MCU is your main kind of thing that you're mucking with. Now, granted, as with all kind of things with like the beginning of certain comic books, having teen sidekicks like that, especially when he's just got like no superpowers at the moment, is kind of like okay, and especially during a World War, you're like, oh, that'd be kind of freaky to kind of do, but it's how it was at the time, and it's cool to kind of see them doing a different kind of art style and kind of view it from a different kind of lens, seeing how his like 80 years have gone. It's like, okay, interesting. I'd known a little bit about it, but I'm like, okay, I kind of like them showing it like this. So the second one deals with the Red Skull, and now I'm more used to this different kind of modern stuff. I have delved into the lore every so often, but granted, there's like 80 years of lore. So I was intrigued to see how this went down with this version of the Red Skull, because this was this Maxon dude of like a Maxon Industries kind of thing, acting as the Red Skull, going around killing these high-ranking military officials. And we see that he was doing stuff with an airplane, and then it went down, and Steve's kind of like trying to figure out what's going on with this Red Skull, because he's talking about like his looking into my eyes, looking at death, kind of similar to like a penance stare kind of thing that he was attempting to do, or attempting to kind of build out that kind of legend. And we see he goes after and takes out a general, and of course Cap and Bucky are on his list next. And this one really had some interesting art styles, because the thing is it shifts around every couple of pages, so trying to list out everything would be kind of nuts. But there's not any kind of one that I really hated throughout the different kind of art styles. I think they did a very well done job of making sure that each kind of art style flowed into the next. This one had some really good ones, though. The Avengers one has like Alex Ross kind of stuff. I'm like, yes. Well, we find out that he's like fighting him out. And Bucky, of course, helps him to do support, and they're able to hit off his mask, or break it pretty much to pieces, and we find out he was using a hypodermic needle full of like poison to kill these people, and during the kerfuffle, falls on it, and he dies. So Steve and Bucky, of course, continue on their stuff of what's going on. Last one, of course, is the Avengers 4 one, where Cap gets reintroduced mainly 20 years after his kind of hiatus that happened after the end of the war, because he was made during World War II, and then of course with waxing and waning kind of popularity with comics, they tried to figure out what to kind of do with him, and then they did this in Avengers to kind of reintroduce him. And this one deals with Submariner. Namor is trying to do some shit with the Hulk and muck with the surface world and everything, and we see that these people, indigenous to the Arctic, are kind of worshipping this frozen kind of thing, and it's pissing Namor off. He's like, "Screw you guys!" and just starts like bashing shit. The indigenous people are like, "Fucking run!" He's getting pissed off. He's like breaking a whole lot of shit and everything. Where he's like beating the holy hell out of like the frozen tundra. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, chill. And of course, this sets off Capsicle floating in. He of course then thaws out and is floating in the waters and gets picked up by the Avengers. And you need to really look into the lore, because Cap was not in the original lineup of the Avengers, and it's really kind of weird because you see all these different kind of takes on like the comic lore, and of course the updating with the MCU and how kind of pivotal Cap has become to being part of the Avengers. And seeing this is really nice because I knew about it, but some people probably don't know all of it because of, again, the 80-year history. But seeing it done like this, where they like get him thawed out, they're like, whoa, this is Captain America, but it can't be him because he'd be an old dude by now. And we get, of course, our clashing at first because Cap doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't know where these people are. They think he's an imposter, so they're kind of starting to fight out. But of course, Janet calms everything down because we got the Wasp, Giant Man, we got Iron Man, and we got Thor, and they kind of settle everything down, and Cap relays to them what happened. This, of talking about like an explosives laden drone kind of thing being sent off to blow something up. So him and Bucky try to stop it, but Cap is unable to save Bucky as he pretty much blows off and blows up, and that of course sets off the whole Winter Soldier stuff. He's older-ish, but like an elder kind of teen at this point in the war, and Cap gets blown off and put into the Arctic freeze. And you're just, okay. So they're trying to figure out what to do. They get back into New York, and suddenly the Avengers, they're getting pictures and everything. The media want to ask them questions and everything. And this is, of course, 20 years after, like, World War II. So pretty much in the 60s with everything going on. And suddenly there's a flash, and we see statues where the Avengers were. So, okay, how's this going on? Now, of course, you could pretty much pick, like, they were probably turned to stone. And you get to that eventually, because Cap's like, okay, that's kind of weird, because he'd been waiting a while for the Avengers to kind of give him the signal, like, oh, get out of the fucking submarine. So he gets out, and he's like, alright, cool. He's, like, seeing how the world has changed, how much smaller cars are. He actually runs into somebody that he had saved at one point, and he's like, wow, man, you're Cap. I met you, man. That's cool. And he remembered him as well. That's the cool thing about Cap. But he is told where to go, gets into a hotel room, and then somebody comes to his door. He's, of course, got his super senses and everything. Well, not super senses. He, because of his training and everything, he's able to figure out what's going on. And he grabs somebody, and they look like Bucky, but this is Rick Jones, friend of the Incredible Hulk, and, of course, friend of the Avengers as well. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's like, alright, so he uses his team brigade because they are able to look into, like, picture of all the different kind of media people around and see somebody that's got a weird looking gun, and he uses his team brigade kind of like a internet kind of message board kind of thing to have them all spread out to try and figure out and find this dude so they can figure out what's going on. And it's really kind of cool to see it done that way, and looking at it from like, oh, this is similar to what we're doing right now on the internet with like different kinds of chat rooms and different kind of vehicles and that kind of thing. So it's a really kind of cool thing to see. Yeah, things have changed in kind of how we do things, but they don't change that much. So it's cool to see it for that kind of perspective as well. So they're able to get a beat on the guy. Cap goes in, takes out pretty much the guys, but finds out that this dude, who looks like a human at first, is actually an alien. And that his ship is kind of locked down underneath the sea. And Namor said that he would help him figure that out if he took out the Avengers. And he's like, oh, okay, so there's got to be a way to kind of like fix this whole kind of thing. He's like, all right, well, here's the thing. You help me, because you can't pronounce his name. He came to Earth a while ago, pretty much set up the whole thing of the Medusa legend because of how weird he looks and being able to turn people to stone. And Cap putting that together is pretty nice. And he's like, okay, how about this? You help me turn the Avengers back to normal, and we'll help you bring your ship up. And he's like, all right, fine, we'll do that. So he's able to get him back up. And the Avengers set off to kind of help everything out. They start trying to do everything, but of course Namor is linked up back with his people because his people were avoiding him for some reason. It's never really expanded upon within the issue, but it still sets up like, oh, he's got his forces, and they pretty much go to like take him out. So we get this brawl between Namor and the Avengers and everything, and we see Cap's fight with him. Not Cap's. We see Iron Man's fight with him first, and Tony, of course, is in his not his original armor because he had his gray armor and then he did a gold one and then his kind of classic red and gold kind of third armor, and he's like, oh god, he's has battery problems. Well, not problems, but he can only hold so much charge for certain things, and Namor takes a big pounding. We've also got that they were about to pretty much bring up the ship, and Cap and Giant Man were kind of like dealing with that. Giant Man, of course, was in his giant form and had to shrink down to his Ant-Man form and had to dodge fish to get back up, and so that way he can help out and figure out what's going on. Cap's pretty much out of commission because he's like assessing how the Avengers operate and what they can kind of do, which is a smart kind of move to do because you don't just go in. Now, in this one, we don't see that Namor and Cap recognize each other, which I don't know how they kind of did with like certain retcons, because Cap and the original Human Torch, the android, and Namor and Bucky had a team of the Invaders during World War II as well. I don't know how that kind of like worked around because that might not have happened or was brought up during this time. So that's, if you're trying to figure out like, hey, why is Namor kind of fighting him? Now granted, Namor is kind of a dick most of the time, so Namor fighting Cap is really not out of the realm of possibility, but them not recognizing each other and their various kind of contributions that they did in World War II, it might not have happened at that time, so I don't see it as like a mistake or a continuity error because I need to kind of like look into that myself. But we see that Iron Man kind of got on the back foot with Namor. Thor then's like, I'm going to show you what we do, and is of course using Mjolnir and all that, but it gets to a point that problems were going to ensue, and Cap gets into the fray and stops Namor, and they're about to get even kind of into a worse kind of scenario, but giant kind of shaking's going on, and we see that the alien guy is able to get his ship up, and he's like, alright, cool, you guys are alright, and kind of flies on. And well, he doesn't really do that, but he's like, yay, we're done. Everybody in the Avengers is like, alright, cool. And we see that they then induct Cap into the Avengers, and he's like, yeah, of course. If it's what I think you're going to be saying, of course I say yes. It's like, alright, cool. So it's really cool to see them pick like three kind of important aspects of Cap. His, of course, introduction, his whole thing with the Red Skull, even though this was a different Red Skull, and his reintroduction in the Avengers as the kind of focal stories to do for his 80th anniversary tribute issue. So I overall really enjoyed this. I liked the different kind of art styles, and they stayed true to kind of the time periods while also kind of just like giving you a kind of broader aspect of Cap's lore, so that way if you're into Captain America, which if you're getting this issue, it's like $6.99, so take that into consideration. But this is like his 80th anniversary kind of tribute issue, so of course it would be more expensive, but let that be on your mind if you want this comic or not. I enjoyed it, and if you're really into Cap, I think you can give it a look if you want. If you're not into the price point or into the three kind of stories that it really delves into, that's fine. But and if you're not that much into Cap, I don't know. This might give you a kind of nice introduction into his history to be like, okay, so this is his World War II period. This is him dealing with the Red Skull, and this is how he kind of got brought into the Avengers, and see if you kind of want to look into him more. So there's kind of various kind of aspects you can look at with that. So those are my opinions on the comic. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.